Good evening. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees. It is November 23rd. Thank you for joining us, whether you're here in person or via television. Our first order of business, of course, is the Pledge of Allegiance. And unfortunately, we were unable to have a student to join us today, but we're going to have Steve lead us.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No round of applause here.
No.
Karen, may I have roll call, please?
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Grasso.
Here.
Trustee Pavesa.
Here.
Trustee Bolus.
Here.
Trustee Murphy. Trustee Chiappa.
Here.
Mayor Straub.
Here. Are there any, now for the residents' comments, are there any residents of the village that would like to address the board this time? One person?
My name is Tom White. At the November 9th Village Board meeting, I once again made an impassioned plea for this body to provide an actuarially sound police pension levy. Although there may be some support for a more responsible levy, the end result was a unanimous decision to continue on the same Illinois ramp plan funding path, which is designed to make matters worse. Previous to my serving for 10 years on as an Illinois public pension administrator, I was a high school math teacher. My teacher's education training taught me that when it didn't seem like I was able to get a concept across, that I should go into review mode, which entails restating the concept, examining what the audience is saying, and then providing a review of the concept from the audience's standpoint. The basic concept is, how does a person, or in this case a village, provide for retirement? Retirement experts prescribe early and consistent contributions, allowing assets to grow over time. Here is what I heard from the trustees regarding their unanimous decision to minimize the police pension portion of the fixed levy. We can't provide more funding because of today's environment, and especially when we needed to pass a resolution to ask the state to pay us our money. That is the full share of the state income tax municipal rebate. Illinois' bad financial situation and the overall economic environment implies minimal help for municipalities, so it is a bad environment. But looking at it from a pension fund standpoint, the recent financial market correction, and that is for the second and third quarters, our police pension fund is down 4.2% versus the 7% assumption. The pension fund was statutorily shorted by the village from 2003 to 2010. Give them their money. Go with the actuary's number. Actuary provided three funding numbers: state minimum, GASB, and IMRF minimum. Actuary did not provide a recommendation. The village administration's recommendation is the state minimum. The Burr Ridge Police Pension Fund trustees recommended the IMRF minimum. Although the actuary did not make a recommendation, a review of the actuarial valuation in which the growing deficit is reconciled, which is Exhibit 4, reveals for the last 5 fiscal years, that is 2011-2015, the village's Illinois minimum funding increased the deficit by an average of $230,000 per year, $1.15 million, while the investment income was doing well and it exceeded the 7.25 assumption for the 5 years, reduced the deficit by $100,000 as opposed to adding $1.15 million. It would be nice, but not prudent at this time. What is prudence? Being wise in practical affairs as by providing for the future. In the last 5 years, the deficit has increased 41%. Most of that increase, 62%, is related to the village's adherence to the Illinois state minimum calculation. When will it become prudent? Unless the village hits the lottery, the current village administration has made it clear that they will never find it prudent to provide anything beyond the state minimum police pension funding, and will continue to ignore the statutory underfunding for 2001 through 2010. Today's residents will either be required to pay more taxes or receive less village services if the village funds the pension beyond the state requirement. Tax levy request is limited by law. Therefore, increasing the police pension portion of the tax levy reduces the amount earmarked for the capital fund, corporate fund, but does not result in a tax increase. Regarding village services, there are many different funding sources that are flexible, which is not the case with the police pension, whose only flexible funding source is the fact that the police pension portion of the levy.
Excuse me,
Regarding
Tom. Tom, your 5 minutes is up. Could you wrap it up relatively quickly?
Okay. Okay, let's see. Regarding funding a pension beyond the state requirement, the problem once again is that the state minimums have caused deficit to more than triple since 2007. I tell my kids save, put money in the bank, save for college, a car, a home. Once you spend it, it's gone. Thought to myself, finally, someone who gets the concept. Putting money away from retirement is saving. Spending money, as in placing in the corporate or capital improvement fund, is spending. It's not saving. We don't need to liquidate assets. The village needs to live within its means, which includes its responsibility to prudently fund retirement, not defund, which is what's currently going on. That's good for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Anyone else? Moving on to the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the agenda. Under minutes, we have 5A, approval of regular board meeting of November 9th, 2015. 5B, receive and file draft stormwater management committee meeting of November 10th, 2015. 5C, receive and file draft pathway commission meeting of November 12th, 2015. 5D, receive and file draft plan commission meeting of November 16th, 2015. And 5E, receive and file draft economic development committee meeting of November 17th, 2015. Under ordinances, we have 6A, approval of ordinance annexing certain real estate, that's Spectrum at 9101 Cannery Highway. And 6B, approval of an ordinance rezoning property upon annexation from the R1 single-family residential district to the O2 office and hotel district and the B2 general business district of the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance, that's Z-12-2015, located at 9101 Cannery Highway, which is the Spectrum property. Under 6C, approval of an ordinance granting a special use pursuant to the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance for planned unit development consisting of a senior living facility with 190 units on 14.8 acres, and retail zoning on 3.35 acres. And that's number Z-12-2015, again located at the 9101 Cannery Highway for the Spectrum project. We have 6D, approval of an ordinance amending section 8 of the subdivision ordinance of the village of Burr Ridge regarding donations in lieu of sidewalks. Under resolutions, we have 7B, adoption of resolution granting final plat approval for the re-subdivision of the Estancia Executive Center planned unit development located at 120 through 180 Harvester Drive. Under considerations, we have 8C, approval recommendation to approve agreement regulating video surveillance cameras for the Neighborhood Video Surveillance Program, Highland Fields Subdivision. 8D, receive and file draft resignation letter from Public Works employee Chad Pesavento, effective November 20th, 2015. 8E, approval of recommendation to fill General Utility Worker 1 vacancy in the Water Division of the Public Works Department created by the resignation of Chad Pesavento. 8F, approval of recommendation to reappoint Alice Krampitz as a representative to the I&M Canal National Heritage Corridor for a 4-year term expiring June 25th, 2015. 2019. Under considerations, 8G, approval of the 2016 board meeting schedule. 8H, approval of vendor lists in the amount of $985,891.91 for all funds, plus $237,350.28 for payroll for a grand total of $1,223,249.19, which includes special expenditures of $54,366 to Curry Motors for a 2016 Ford Explorer Utility Interceptor for the Police Department, $490,000 to U.S. Bank for payment on principal for the GO Series 203 bond issue, $15,422 to U.S. Bank for payment of interest for the GO Series 2003 bond issue, and $51,931.25 to U.S. Bank for payment of interest for the debt certificate Series 2012. May I have a motion to approve the following items? That's 5A, 5B, 5C, 5D, and 5E, 6A, 6B, 6C, and 6D. Resolutions 7B, under considerations 8C, 8D, 8E, 8F, 8G, and 8H. May I have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
May I have a second, please? Second by Al. Roll call, please.
Trustee Skiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa.
Yes.
Trustee Grasso.
Yes.
Trustee Francis. Yes. Trustee Bolus.
Yes.
5-0.
Motion passes 5-0. We have under considerations, under resolutions, the consideration of adoption of a resolution opposing the construction of a nuclear waste repository in the Great Lakes Basin. Steve?
Yes. Includes you have a resolution in opposition to a plan to build an underground nuclear waste dump less than 1 mile from the shores of Lake Huron in Canada. It's obvious that any contamination resulting from a leaking nuclear waste repository located on Lake Huron could have a potential negative impact on Lake Michigan's water, the source of drinking water for not only Burr Ridge, but over 7 million residents in northeast Illinois. This issue was brought to my attention by longtime resident environmentalist Maureen Hennington. Many of you don't remember her. To date, similar resolutions have been adopted in Cook County, DuPage County, and the municipalities of Evanston, Highland Park, and Waukegan. This proposal has also met with opposition of several members in Congress, including representatives of the Illinois delegation. I've attached information in that regard. Maureen in the past has always brought to us issues as it relates to nuclear dump sites and the like. I think this is just one more example of something that we should get behind and support as a municipality. I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Steve regarding this resolution?
Make a motion to approve, to adopt the resolution opposing the construction of a nuclear waste repository in the Great Lakes Basin.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Bolus.
Yes.
Trustee Grasso.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa.
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa.
Yes.
5-0.
Resolution passes 5-0. Under considerations, we have consideration of Plan Commission recommendation to amend the zoning ordinance to add health and athletic club with less than 7,000 square feet of floor area to the list of permitted uses for the B1 district, to grant special use approval for the reconfiguration of the County Line Square parking lot, and to grant variations from the zoning ordinance to provide for the parking lot reconfiguration without the required landscaping islands, and to permit a health and athletic club in a shopping center without the required number of parking spaces. Doug?
Thank you. I'd like to present the Plan Commission recommendation to approve a request by County Line Square and Cycle Bar to add Health and Athletic Club with less than 7,000 square feet of floor area to the list of permitted uses in the B1 district, to grant site plan approval for proposed parking lot reconfiguration within County Line Square, to approve a variation for the parking lot reconfiguration to allow that reconfiguration without the required landscaping islands, and to approve a variation to permit a health and athletic club in the shopping center without the required number of parking spaces. The proposed tenant within County Line Square, Cycle Bar, is a health and athletic club that conducts stationary bicycle exercise classes. They would occupy 2,905 square feet within the shopping center. That particular use requires 19 parking spaces in under the parking regulations of the zoning ordinance. The prior tenant, an interior retail design store, only required 10 parking spaces. Because the new use requires more parking than the previous use, and because the shopping center the required parking already exceeds the number of parking spaces available within the shopping center, this tenant needs a parking variation in order to occupy the space within the shopping center. In response to that, the owner of County Line Square proposes to restripe the parking lot to add 26 parking spaces. That would result in a total number of parking spaces of 452 within the shopping center. They are required to have 463, therefore they're still short of parking, and therefore they still need a variation for the cycle bar. However, the Plan Commission did note that they are adding parking spaces, so the net result is improvement in the parking situation. They also noted that the peak hours for the cycle bar will be in the mornings when other businesses are closed. And they noted that this being a interior corner tenant space, it's hard to lease, and therefore some relief of the zoning may be appropriate. The Plan Commission does recommend approval of these requests, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And when they're talking about restriping the parking spaces, they're going to be the same size. They're not going to shrink them by a couple inches so
No.
they can get 26 extra in there.
If you'll look at the plan, in this area, there currently is no parking. It's just an island, landscape island and extra wide drive aisles. They're able to eliminate the landscape island in that area and stripe in 10 parking spaces. They're also adding 5 parking spaces by eliminating some extra landscaping that's not required by the zoning ordinance. But all the spaces in the drive aisles will comply with the code requirements. Anyone else?
Trustee Francis?
I want to thank Cycle Bar for their interest in the village. I think they'll be a great addition to the village. Certainly serve the needs of the residents, and thank you for your interest. I also appreciate the property owner willing to make these modifications to the parking lot to alleviate a parking problem that's been existing, and certainly this is improvements in the right direction. I have a few concerns, though, and a few questions. So Doug, or the property owner can answer this. The landscape island in the middle on the east end, that's going to be eliminated, torn out. Is that correct? The 10-space addition?
This island?
Yes,
Yes.
that's torn out. What becomes of the light fixture that's currently in the island?
They are leaving it in its current location, and that would not be a parking space. That would just be, the lamp would stay there.
Oh, yeah. So how would it be protected from cars and snowplows and such? If the landscape island is taken out?
It would not be protected. It
Not be
would
protected? Okay, I have a concern about that. Also, in the two-space, I think it's two-space addition along Burridge Parkway there by Chase Bank. Sorry, I don't have a pointer. Yes, up there. Are they adding one space there or two?
One?
One?
One.
Okay. So they're cutting into that landscape peninsula. There's a tree that Chase planted there, dead center in the middle of that landscape. And what becomes of that tree?
They would relocate it.
Relocate it? Okay, very good. Excellent, excellent. Also, there's talk of adding 4 spaces behind the mall, and those would serve employees or customers or both?
They would have to be for employees.
Would have to be for employees, okay. Because certainly if I'm a customer, I wouldn't want to be parking next to a garbage dumpster. But I drove back there on Saturday, and there's already cars parking back there. And they're not parking parallel, like it's configured on this drawing. They're parking perpendicular to the building, behind Brandy's, behind La Cabanita, and behind Capri Express. So there's some other parking issues going on there as well. A lot of discussion was mentioned at the Plan Commission public hearing about snow removal. And about how the snow removal, how the snow's piled up, it's piled up on islands and it's piled up on the parking spaces, and then, so parking is decreased. But one thing that wasn't mentioned about the snow piles was the safety aspect. This was brought up previously when Capri came before, but it wasn't brought up again, and how it's important that these snow piles be removed because they make blind corners, blind intersections, and residents at night would have difficulty seeing around these corners. And the safety of our residents and the safety of the patrons at Cycle Bar is a concern. So I think it's very important that, from a safety aspect, as well as an underparked situation, that these snow piles be removed expeditiously when they occur. While I'm on the subject of safety, driving along the curb front, the fire lane curb front in front of the entire mall, I only counted 2 no parking fire lane signs. 2. Last year when I counted them, there was 3. When the mall was built, there's certainly a lot more. They've been disappearing over the years. So I would ask the property owner, if I'm going to support this, that these no parking fire lane signs be restored to their original positions. I spoke with you, Doug, about how many should be there, and you spoke to the fire department chief. He said they recommend a sign every 150 feet to every 200 feet of curb. I scaled the drawing, and there's about 1,400 lineal feet of curb, so that would be 7 signs plus 1 on the end. That'd be 8 signs. There's only 2 there now. There should be 8 if I'm to use 200 feet as the metric. So I'd like to see another 6 signs added, no parking fire lane. I drove past there tonight, picking up my dry cleaning on the way here. There's cars parked out in front of Kumanen, picking up their kids. And Kumanen came before us. They said they weren't going to park. Their parents aren't going to wait out front of the store. They're going to wait in a parking lot. But no, they're waiting out in front, parked in the fire lane. There's no way to enforce it with just a yellow stripe that a yellow curb you can't see at night. There's people parked up in front of Kirkstra's picking up their dry cleaning, in front of Capri Express picking up their to-go orders. It's a problem, and I think it would be difficult to enforce without the signage. So for the safety of the residents, the safety of the patrons, we need these signs back. So I would ask the developer to put in 6 more signs and make sure that they remain in place if I'm to support this variation. But I do appreciate Cycle Bar, and they're going to be a great addition to the village, and I'm excited for you and for your business. And I'm also happy to see that the developer is willing to make strides to improve this parking situation. Thank you.
Doug, I have a question for you. Is there any additional spots, anything going to be changed with the loop in front of the Capri? Originally there was some discussion that the exit to the Lincolnshire Drive, there was going to be part of that landscaping that was removed to make additional room for valet parking and that sort of thing. That does not look like it's part of this?
No, that was a staff recommendation that we had created several months ago. That's an example of that.
Okay.
And that was not chosen by Mr. Garber.
Okay. Thank you. And any other?
Yes, I have a
Trustee
question.
Bolus?
I do appreciate also, as Trustee Francis said, the reconfiguration of the parking lot and adding more spaces. That'll be very, very helpful to the residents and the tenants. Has the developer, the landlord, committed to removing the snow so that the parking spots are not?
Yes.
Okay, so that is a commitment. So it'll be off-site. Okay, that was my only question.
Great. Any further discussion? May I have a motion to approve considerations 8A?
I'll make that motion
Oh, I'm sorry.
with the additional 6 no parking fire lane signs.
Duly noted. Second?
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Francis?
Wait, can we have a little more discussion? I agree we have to have the fire lane signs, but are we sure that the number that you're stating is what the fire department wants?
I asked Mr. Pollock, and that's the number when he consulted the fire department, that was their recommendation, 150, a sign every 150 to 200 feet is recommended. Is that correct, Doug? I asked him the question last year when this came up with Capri Express. We talked about it, and that, so I wrote it down, and that's the number. But if it's some other number,
Maybe that we could continue to, or find out that, so it's
The exact
within the
number.
code, the fire code, but not specify the number in case that's wrong since we're voting on it.
would it hurt to have 6 more?
I don't know.
Trustee Schiappa?
And well, to give kudos to the Burge Police Department, I have been guilty of parking in front of Capri Express, and the Burge Police Department did pull up and give me a warning, so they are monitoring it, but I do think that the signs will help as well, additional signs.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Bolus?
Yes.
Trustee Grasso?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
5-0.
And I'd also like to thank Bob Garber and his family for being this aggressive with the parking spots and responding to the request. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for investing in the village many years ago. And Susan, is it, with the new cycle bar, thank you for also doing the same thing. Okay, next on topic is under 8B, discussion concerning the purchase of wreaths and additional lighting for the County Line Road Bridge columns. Steve?
Yes, we have budgeted this year, excuse me, $4,500 for the purchase of wreaths to be located on the columns on the County Line Road Bridge. This cost was based on what it would have cost McFarland Douglas, who does our decorations on County Line Road, to provide 8 lit wreaths, 2 per column. This was a number that Paul May had come up with, and we put in the budget. Unfortunately, there were no electrical outlets on the columns, and therefore the additional cost to provide lighting on the wreaths is not necessary at this point. We found out today that it would cost an additional $800 per column, or $3,200 to put in the necessary outlets for the lighting. We looked at alternative costs for commercial grade reusable wreaths, and we determined that if we bought 8 non-lit 3-foot wreaths with bows, they could be purchased for $264 each for a total of $2,112. We just found out on Friday, after I prepared this, that the state will allow us to put those wreaths up. So if we were going to put them along the expressway, so you could see them along the expressway, I think we probably want to go with a 4-foot wreath because it's a little wider on that side. And so the cost would go up maybe a couple $100 from there. So that's the situation with the wreaths. Now, in addition, per the request of Trustee Grasso, we looked at soliciting additional price from our electrical contractor to put in additional LED lights on the 4 columns. What's happening is when you drive down the road, either coming from north or south, the first set of columns you see are lit, but the next set of columns are not lit on that side, okay? They're lit on 3 sides, basically, not on that 4th side. And so whichever way you come, you only see the first set of columns, you don't see the second columns lit. To add additional lighting to the columns, it would be $2,700 per column for a total cost of $10,800. We have over $215,000 in surplus in the hotel motel tax fund to cover the cost of this expenditure. My initial reaction was, again, always looking to save money no matter, even if it's coming from the hotel motel tax fund, which would be to forego the wreaths this year and just do the lighting. But obviously there's sufficient funds to do it all if you would like to do it. So looking for some direction.
Have you consulted at all the hotel motel committee or?
We're not going to be meeting until next week, but the money's in the budget. And again, this is all part of the County Line Road Bridge project, which they fully endorse, so I don't think that there will be an issue.
What is the total amount?
Members?
I'm sorry, what is the total amount of the money you just said? Because you said wreaths, and you said lights, and you said...
Well, again, $2,112 for 3-foot lights, if wreaths. If 4 of those wreaths were to be 4-foot instead of 3-foot, we might have to add another $300 or $400. So let's say $2,500 for the wreaths, $3,200 if we wanted to put in outlets so that we could light the wreaths, and we could do that ourselves. And then to light the actual columns, which is a separate issue, that would be $10,800.
About $16,500 for all of it, somewhere around there.
Well, hold on one second. Trustee Bolus, now, first for clarification, what are we voting on? What can we vote on tonight?
And all of it,
Can the discussion of the additional lighting
yes,
be added in conjunction with this? Okay.
yes.
Trustee Bolus?
I'm not in favor of spending any more money. I mean, we didn't do a restaurant week because you were worried about funds and what the state is doing, and we forego that, and that certainly was a beneficial thing for the village. I think 2 years ago, Steve, you wouldn't have touched the hotel motel tax fund for anything.
I'm sorry, what?
I said a couple of years ago, when we were talking about hotel motel, you didn't want to touch it for anything.
Oh, no, that's not quite right. Remember, we've added quite a few things.
Correct.
In the hotel motel
It
tax
took
fund.
quite a bit of prodding to do that. I think because the bridge is just completed. We have large stones with small plantings. We don't know how much additional dollars, which all the maintenance for this bridge project is going to come from the hotel motel. We don't know how much additional money it's going to take to get the landscaping, everything up to par. I think we're a little premature in doing these things. This is not a safety issue. And I know my colleagues here don't think the hotel motel money is taxpayer money, but any money that comes into the village coffers is taxpayer dollars, restricted or not. I think we're premature with that. We have budget concerns we should watch for, and I agree with you, Steve. We should watch our budget. And if we did want to spend this money, we could do additional things like an additional concert, a summer series for children. We can do sponsor an ice rink. Can't we use the hotel motel fund and correct me if I'm wrong, for village hall landscaping and a sign? We can, because, I mean, this is our visitor information center, basically, if people are coming by and stopping to see what's going on in Burr Ridge, so we can use funds for that. We can use the money to promote the arts, have an event to promote the arts. There's a lot we could do other than light the bridge. And I have to tell you, I drive up and down that thing all the time. I didn't notice the lack of lighting. So that's what I have to say.
Trustee Bowles, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Not right now.
Okay. And Steve, is there anything you'd like to respond to? Okay, let's, Tony, do you have anything that you'd like to add or question regarding this?
Still, so the original amount, it's $4,500 the original plan was to purchase wreaths for $4,500. Okay, and then, what size are those wreaths?
Those are 3 foot.
Well, the number I have here is for 3-foot wreaths. My thought originally, late last week, was that we would just put them on the signs that you could see from the traffic along County Line Road. But then late Friday, we found out that we could actually put them on the side along the road, along the expressway, excuse me. So I think we should probably put in 4-foot wreaths there. So we buy 4-foot wreaths and 4 3-foot wreaths. And that will probably cost another $300-400. So instead of $2,100, let's say it's $2,500.
In addition to the $4,500.
No, forget that the $4,500 was the total amount originally.
Okay.
So now we're talking about spending $25
Okay.
instead of $45. Now, if you want to light the wreaths, okay, then it's going to cost an additional $3,200. So if you take the, say, 25 and 32, that's $5,700. And so instead of $4,500, you'd be spending $5,700 for wreaths, okay? That's a separate issue. Those are reusable wreaths that we would, use year after year, okay? Now, separate and distinct from that is the issue of the inside columns are not lit. And if you want to light those, it's an extra $2,700 per column or $10,800.
Okay.
So we're talking about two separate issues. You could do one or the other, or you could do both.
Okay.
I'm saying there's sufficient money in the hotel motel tax fund to do that. I'm confident the hotel marketing committee would agree to these things. It's, again, I'm looking for direction. I've heard from trustee Bolus, and I'd like to hear from all the trustees, obviously.
Trustee Pavesa, do you have anything like to add?
Well, they're doing upgrades to the village center of over $2 million. And the electrical is a one-shot deal, but we can use it every year for the fact that we're spending, am I right? So we're spending $10,000 plus, but, you know, we could probably use that, and it'll be there for over 10 years. So I look at it as, you know, since the money's there and we're not taxing anybody, I'm looking at it as $1,000 this year. And the comments that we've had from everybody about the bridge, I think by adding the bigger wreaths and lighting it up will just add to the positive notoriety that Burr Ridge is getting. And I would be in favor of the whole package.
Trustee Grasso?
Yeah, I'm afraid that, I'm surprised that Trustee Bolus doesn't notice the lighting, because every time I go over it, it looks like it's unfinished, the bulbs are out. And that's always just been one of my pet peeves, you know, when you go by a store or a hotel and it spells M-A-R-I-O, you know, it's like, change the bulbs. So it's not saying that's with our Marriott, but just in general, and you see missing bulbs, and that's how it looks when I cross that bridge repeatedly, especially when it's dark. So I think since the hotel, motel, restaurant group all want that bridge to be done correctly, I mean, it should have been. I think this is an oversight that we just didn't realize that the columns would not be illuminated, or if it was part of the plans, we didn't realize it would look like it was missing something. So I'm in favor of doing the whole thing. And the Christmas spirit and the wreaths being, I mean, the bows being reusable, it sounds like a reasonable expense to me.
Okay. Trustee Francis?
Yes, thank you. At one time, were we talking about colored lighting, red and green lighting on the bridge? Was that?
Yeah, but I don't think the state will allow that, will they?
No, the state didn't allow that. The red and the green have, you know, specific colors for red lights, green lights, stop and go.
Very good, thank you. So at each column, I want to talk about the proposed lighting for a moment. At each column, as you're heading northbound or southbound, let's say I'm heading northbound, and the first column I come to, it's lit on 2 sides or 3 sides?
Faces.
It's basically,
3 sides.
let's see, when you're, no, actually 2 sides.
2 sides. So you're proposing to light the 3rd and the 4th side, or just the 3rd side?
Yes, 3rd and 4th sides.
Would the lighting in the 4th side be a detriment to safety detriment to those drivers driving?
I'm looking at my village engineer, he doesn't believe that's the case.
No? Will the fixtures project out into traffic? How will they be lit?
No,
They are now.
They're lit there. The photometrics on these things go straight down. There's very little trespass that goes out into the lanes, so there's no glare or whatever into the cars.
They're mounted on top,
They're lit from the top and
and they
then
shine down.
Right,
Okay, thank you.
under the face, right.
I would have to agree with Trustee Bolos. We don't know what kind of landscaping expenses we're going to run into in the next few years. We may have some plants and shrubbery that dies and we have to replace it. So I'm in favor of purchasing the wreaths, which is what we agreed to when we approved the fiscal 15-16 budget. But I'd like to hold off on these lights and see where we're going to end up with the landscape maintenance before we spend additional money.
We've already budgeted, excuse me, I'm sorry. You finished?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry. We've already budgeted, what, 10,000 for maintenance of the bushes and the trees and all the plantings?
Well, actually, it's 15,000 we've been setting aside for anything that could happen. So really, we're thinking in the worst-case scenario, somebody hits a column and knocks it over, major storm of some type, or all of our landscaping dies for some reason, and we got to replace it. So that, the thought was, is that we put that money aside over a number of years to make sure there's like a rainy day fund just for the bridge.
And, I'm sorry, trustee Francis?
So, but we don't know how these plants and, we don't definitively know how these plants and plantings are going to fare with all the salt exposure they get from the expressway and from County Line Road. I mean, these plantings were recommended to us because they were salt resistant. But, you know, when we landscaped the median on County Line Road, we had issues with plantings dying off. And it continues to be an issue, but it's certainly better than it was. So I would tend to be cautious and wait and see how that goes before I spend additional money that could be earmarked for landscaping restoration, spending the money on the lighting. I support spending money on the wreaths. That's what we had budgeted.
Steve, would you like to just to reiterate for the benefit of the audience and the residents, you know, what makes up the hotel motel taxes and what it's earmarked for, what it can be used for, what it can't be used for,
Well,
how this, you know, how this fund is used and especially around the bridge and the tourism side.
The village levies a 4% tax on hotels. It was 3%, and then when the bridge project came to light, the Hotel Motel Marketing Committee came to the village and asked for the village to raise the tax 1% to 4%. So there'd be sufficient dollars to pay the village's share of the ITEP grant, which the village had received. And so going forward, that's basically been paid off. There's just a few $1,000s, we think, left over, and with the fact that the project came in under budget, we might not have to pay any additional. But there is some money budgeted for some additional costs associated with that. Now, the state law is very clear. You can only use it to promote tourism, overnight stays in the village. Now, we've stretched that issue quite a bit. Not only do we do promotions, and we spend over $250,000 a year of those dollars that I'm talking about in promoting our village hotels. And by promoting our hotels, we also promote the village itself. You see all the advertising that we do and so forth. We're always talking about not only staying in Burridge, but dining in Burridge, shopping in Burridge, and so forth. So that's really our opportunity to promote the village. In addition, all of our landscaping costs are now included in that fund, including the village hall and along County Line Road and all the beautification areas in that area, along with the grass cutting that we do in the traffic circles around along the expressway. We also, yes, the entrance ramps. We also fund 100% of the cost of the concert series, including half the salary of Janet, our communications and PR coordinator. And then there's a number of other issues on an annual basis that we spend money on. Replanting flowers, putting in additional electrical this year for the lighting. You see all the beautiful lighting we have there. Well, we had to add some additional electrical out there, which we have done. And from time to time, we have to deal with the sprinkler system that gets damaged, and so we've repaired that. So those are some of the things that we, traditionally spend the money on. Again, it's all in concert with our hotel marketing committee. They've agreed that the beautification that we've been doing on County Line Road is a benefit to the hotels. They've agreed that the bridge project is a definite benefit to the hotels. And they agree that having people come in and seeing the village for the concerts and so forth is also a benefit, for which they also receive a lot of marketing recognition as well. So they get something for that as well. So it's been a good program that was started many years ago. At one time, it was only 1%. Of course, that was when we had one hotel. But but we've grown over the years, and I think we've done a lot of good things with those dollars. Now, there's no question that non-home municipalities have been pushing the state to allow us to utilize those dollars for other purposes, as home rule communities can do. And just recently, we sent letters again to our legislators requesting that they consider that, especially in light of any money they would withhold from us in regard to the LGDF. But politics as they are in Springfield, I'm not sure that that will likely pass, but we continue to push that. DuPage mayors and managers consistently pushes that. It's always on their agenda to see if that can happen. And one day we might be able to, to do that. And then there's no question that then we could decide what we want to utilize those dollars for. And I think we could raise the tax at least 1% more, and could generate and use some of those dollars for other purposes. But until that happens, I think it's pretty clear that those dollars are restricted for the purposes that we just outlined.
Okay. And just to also recap, what was your, you added some numbers, took off some numbers. What is it that you're proposing?
Well, again, we learned late Friday and even this afternoon about the fact that we're going to be allowed to do this by the state and the additional numbers associated with putting in outlets. Again, just looking at the numbers, it's $10,800 for the lighting. That's a separate project. For the reefs, again, if we want to go with larger reefs and we want to light those reefs, let's say close to $3,000 for that, and then the $3,200 for the
Outlets?
The outlets. So, I mean, a total of everything would be around $17,000. I think we could do it all for that $17,000. $4,500 of which is already budgeted. The rest would come out of the surplus in the hotel motel tax fund, as I mentioned, which has over $215,000. So, again, it's what you want to do. My initial thought was to hold off on the reefs this year, do the lighting, but I'm hearing, differences of opinion here in terms of that, and we're just anxious to get it going. We found out today that we can get this done by probably the 12th of December. So still in time for Christmas.
Trustee Russell?
I wanted to do it.
Where would the bows be hung, David? Beneath, on the outside? I mean, they can't cover our logo, right, that's facing the Stevenson or whatever. It'd have to be below it, right? Or would you?
Janet, I think, had some.
Well, that's something we'd have to play with. We were thinking about that. And before we could light them, if we weren't going to spend the 32 hours for lighting, where the light really shines is on that leaf as you're going down County Line, and on the BR is from the expressway. So if you got a big enough wreath, maybe the BR could still show through, and the wreath would go around the BR. But that's something we'd have to play with. It might have to go this below the BR especially on.
And the lighting might only illuminate a little bit.
Well, but now if we put in the electrical,
Lights, right.
then the wreaths themselves will be lit and you can see them, and then we probably don't have to put it around the BR. We can put it just below them.
If you'd like to have further discussion on that, I have pictures of the columns up close.
Yeah, so I think in this case, especially if we could light the wreaths, I would put a bow on the brick.
Nice picture.
And this also indicates what's lit and what's not
Just the
lit.
two sides are lit.
Right. Trustee Baveza?
Well, as I stated, if this was a one-shot deal, I would definitely be against it. But the fact that the money we're spending and what we're going to get is not only be used this year, but for many years in the future, and the fact that the money is there, I would propose that we do both the electric and the REITs. I understand where Trustee Bolus and Francie is coming from with potential problems down the road, but the way things are going, we're going to add to the hotel motel tax fund as we go along. So that base will just be added to if we're going to be needing to tap into it in the spring. So my feeling would be to propose to do the whole package, the reeds and the electrical.
Is that a motion?
That'd be a motion.
I'll second that. Does that include illuminating all four
Yes,
sides
yes.
and adding electric
Right.
to illuminate the wreaths?
Right, the whole package.
I'll second that.
No, excuse me one second. Is there any further discussion on the board? I'm sorry, the topic actually never went to the audience. It should have been at the beginning of the meeting. But I'll allow for 2 questions from the audience if you'd like to. Okay, Alice.
Carolyn Grella, 8045 Creekwood Drive. I didn't speak up about the bridge 2 or so years ago, wished I had, but, Trustee Paveza, not everyone in the village is enamored with the bridge. I love the bridge. All the landscaping I thought was way overboard. So in the spending of more money on lighting of the bridge at this time, just to keep into consideration, not everyone in the village thinks the bridge is fantastic. And again, I'm speaking about the landscaping. Trustee Grasso, a lot of people who were very involved so intimately with this bridge are hypersensitive about aspects of the bridge. I go over that bridge all the time, and honestly, I don't even notice the columns or anything anymore. Maybe I live in the village, I don't think about it that much, but I'd like to ask for a little bit of conservatism on, your spending. You can always do it next year. I just think it's maybe too much, and give a chance for the bridge to develop a little bit for even 1 year. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn Grella.
Alice Crampett, 7515 Drew Ridge. I have a question. Since there are concrete pillars that are basically on the bridge and the lighting, are you going to have to put like pipes on the outside of the columns to get this additional electric on? Because I mean, that would look bad if we had to, run like extra little pipes or something around the outside and put external like electric boxes on it. So that would deter from the beauty of the bridge. So I was just curious how that would work, or if you could pull it through the lights that are already there, or, how would that work?
Good clarifying question. Dave?
That's a good question. The way they've been constructed, they can't be accessed from the inside anymore. They are hollow, but everything is mortared on there solidly. The additional lights that would face down onto the other 2 faces would be just kind of daisy chained with the other ones. You wouldn't see any of the wires really, because again, it's just coming around the corner from the other existing lights. To construct the outlets, again, there's no access to the inside. We can't put what's called festoon outlets like you see on some light poles or something. We can't put outlets into the columns. It would be running along the ground and just outlets down at the ground. You'd never see the outlets. The leads to light the wreaths to get down to those outlets would just be a small cord then that comes down the base of the column to plug into an outlet at the bottom.
So the wires are basically not wires necessarily. Something will be exposed to the elements to some degree.
Just for the wreaths, right.
And those would come down then after the season? The cord or the lighting?
Right,
Yeah,
that would
so it wouldn't
be
be
the
plugged in
the
then.
cord coming off of the wreath that has the string of lights on it and just plugs into the outlet down below.
But the conduit would remain.
Conduit would be buried underground, just like you would any kind of electrical fixture connected to a GFCI outlet at the base.
Okay.
I should also say, one of the reasons I think that lighting is important, if we're going to do the wreaths, traffic is all after dark. so for them to see them, they have to be illuminated if we're hoping that it's going to draw people to the village, except for those during the day. So anyway.
Okay. I'm sorry, yes, sir.
Come up, he has to come up.
Yeah, you need to come to the microphone, though. We'll allow the third and final question from Mr. John
I
Bittner.
did this project in Texas. Did you ever think of solar-powered lights with a little grate out there? 8 hours of light gives you 4 hours of lighting. 6 to 10, 7 to 11. Has anybody looked at that cost? Solar.
Thanks, John. Okay. Back at the board, Eddie.
Well,
In a second, a clarification or discussion?
Well, I just want to make one comment. It was stated about spending the money, but the money we're spending isn't taxpayer money per se. It's the money from the hotel motel tax fund, which they are the ones that tell us what to do with the money. And they're in favor of this, so that's, if this was the residents, that'd be a different story. But this is what they would rather do. They want to promote the Burr Ridge. They want to market it in such a way. So that's the main reason that I'm for it.
Al, I'm going to disagree with your definition of what is and isn't taxpayer money again. Any money that comes into the village coffers, no matter which way it's restricted, is taxpayer dollars. Motor fuel money is restricted to use for roads. It's taxpayer money. Don't care where it comes from.
What he's referring to is that taxpayers of Burr Ridge did not pay that
I
tax.
understand
But
that.
you're right, technically, it's all taxpayer money, but the taxpayers of Burr Ridge did not pay for it. I think that's what he's referring to.
That's exactly what I'm
And
referring to.
I would also mention, Al, that yes, we do listen to what the Hotel Marketing Committee has to say, but ultimately, this board makes the final decision.
Good point.
But you're absolutely right that we have to pay attention to, their concerns.
Okay. Trustee Francis?
Trustee Paveza, you said that the Hotel Marketing Committee approved this?
I didn't say that, no. I said therefore marketing the,
Correct.
yes.
You said that they approved it.
No, I didn't say they approved this.
Okay, thank you.
Don't put
Any
words
other,
in my mouth.
discussion on the
That's why I
board?
asked the question.
Any other discussion on the board? We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Paveza,
Yes.
Trustee Grasso,
Yes.
Trustee Francis,
No?
Trustee Bolus,
No.
Trustee Scalpa,
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 3-2.
I need a fourth vote to spend money. So you need to vote.
I vote for it. Motion passes 4-2. Okay, and other considerations? For announcement, deliberation, and/or discussion only, no official action will be taken.
I'd like to point out something. I made a mistake on the meeting schedule for next
You
year.
didn't make a mistake. You were just testing the trustees to make sure they were paying attention, right?
The May 23rd meeting is on a Monday, not a Tuesday, as is on the list. Thank you.
You're supposed to read that. Thank you, right.
Yeah, normally Memorial Days falls on that Monday where we always have a board meeting and usually meet on that Tuesday. But this year, Memorial Day is later, and therefore that 23rd or whatever that date is actually
On Monday.
a Monday, so.
Trustee Grasso?
I would like to thank Janet Kowal and all the volunteers for the Jingle Mingle last weekend. I've heard it was a great success, and we're creating all these wonderful monsters in the village with the concert series and the Jingle Mingle, and more people come out to enjoy Burr Ridge. I'd also like to thank the unsung heroes of the village, those that are behind the desks and behind the computers and in squad cars and et cetera. Many people we do thank the policemen, but we probably don't sing their praises enough. So because of all these wonderful people, we are maybe they're only doing their jobs. Some people would say they're only doing their jobs, but because they do their jobs so well, my family and I and all of us benefit from all of the wonderful people we have working for this village, and I'd like to thank them, especially at this time of year.
Thank you.
I just had one item. We approved the tree removal contract, and I just want to let the public know that the contractor will start eliminating or taking down those trees probably starting December 1st. We will be getting out letters to people notifying them, hopefully before the contractor gets there, but it'll be kind of a just-in-time kind of thing, but we'll get those letters out in advance to let residents know that we're doing that. And I know residents are very concerned about, when will they have a tree replaced? We're going to basically tell them that within 2 years. We may not get them all, next year, because there's over 370 trees that we're going to lose. Now, not all those have to be replaced, but it'll take us a little time, even if we beef up the program next year, which we're going to have to do. But I just want to let people know that it'll probably be 2 years before we can get to all the tree replacements.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. Okay, now we're back to the residents' comments. Any residents would like to address the board? Residents?
Tom White again, Carriageway. The village manager continues to reference the November 4th, 2010 ballot referendum, which passed by almost an 8-to-1 margin as though it were authorization for ignoring the situation. Resolution states, shall the Illinois General Assembly and Governor take immediate steps to implement meaningful public safety reform which will relieve the extensive burden on local taxpayers now that the General Assembly and Governor has reformed the pension systems for all other employees. Pension systems that had been previously reformed included the Illinois teachers, the state university, and state employees, which created what we now know as Tier 2, significantly reducing provisions for new hires within each of those systems. Municipal police and fire were similarly reformed, with all of the systems having the same effective date of January 1st, 2011. My point is this: the referendum is over. It has come to pass. The new hires' future benefits have been reduced. The responsibility for funding the benefits ultimately resides with the village. The state may allow an irresponsible funding plan, but ultimately the village and the pension fund trustees are police pension fund fiduciaries, and as such are responsible for providing the statutorily required benefits, and furthermore to act in a manner consistent with being a prudent person who are familiar with such matters. Currently, the pension fund is being defunded, which is certainly not consistent with acting prudently. At the last meeting, village trustees wondered why there had not been a police pension board presentation, as well as comments related to the tax levy. I'm obviously not here representing the police pension board, but I have attended all the 2015 meetings. What I heard, realizing that my reporting is hearsay, is the following. They hadn't started planning a presentation as of the October police pension board meeting. They felt the time constraints did not allow time to allow for everyone's input, get consensus, rehearse, etc. Additionally, the comment was made that the prior year's presentations had not had much effect. Regarding the recommended levy of normal cost plus interest, almost 3 years prior, the Police Pension Board had adopted their financial principle, which basically stated that their minimum recommendation would be normal cost plus interest. Okay, the board had adopted that financial principle, and which is actually the IRMRF minimum. Although they could pass a motion to abandon or amend their financial principle, they did not. It was pointed out by one trustee that a financial market correction was upon us, and that in the second quarter we had lost 0.5%, and in the third quarter 3.67%. Therefore, annualized for the new fiscal year would be negative. So now was not the time to consider recommending anything less. An additional comment, any comparison of municipal police funding is incomplete. If such things as investment assumptions, retirement amount, relative amount of disability liability, funding policy, state minimum, GASB, IRMRF, or other, is not available for comparison. So to say that we're the third best out of 12, unless you know some of the other factors, you don't really know a whole lot from that. I'd like to offer my services to conduct a 1-hour study session at your convenience to review the most recent actuarial valuation in an effort to review the document and answer or minimally field your questions or concerns. I would like to leave you with a couple quotes from a man who adapted to circumstances not of his own making and achieved amazing results. You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. Commitment is what transforms a promise, such as the policeman's benefits, into reality. The man was Mayor Mickey's hero, Abraham Lincoln. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other residents? Now we're back to our actual reports and communications from village officials. Is there anything else village officials would like to add at this time? Okay. Seeing no one. Non-residents portion? Anyone, any non-residents would like to speak now?
Good evening. My name is Dolores Cezak, former trustee. At the last board meeting, I was unable to locate a particular page of the minutes from October 12, page 10584. The village attorney, Scott Euler, was not quite correct when he said, yes, the village now does have regulations in the municipal code. But when your predecessor back in May 2011, those regulations were not in effect. And facts matter, and so does tradition. The point is, in May 2011, Gary Grassel had no authority to lay down an edict that non-residents could only speak during the second audience portion of a village board meeting. For the amendment to the Open Meetings Act that became effective January 1, 2011, was predicated on audience portion that the municipality had in its municipal code at the time that the amendment was passed. And this village did not have anything in its municipal code at that time. So 4 years later, therefore, the village of Burbridge did not have any such restrictions in its municipal code until 4 years later, September 14, 2005, Ordinance A7810115. Therefore, Grasso exceeded his authority in May 2011 when he limited non-residents in when they could speak at village board meetings. Is this abuse of power? Is this grounds for official misconduct? We'll see what the Better Government Association says. Now, along with facts mattering, so does tradition. Tradition like Thanksgiving, Nutcracker Ballet, lunch with the kids in the walnut room by the tree. Those are all good traditions. This village had a tradition for almost 50 years that the CEO of this village was a village president, not a mayor. The only reason that your predecessor wanted to be called mayor was to massage his ego, because being called mayor seems more important than being called village president and looks better on a resume. Now, if you refer to the Illinois Municipal Handbook, which I distributed, all municipalities operate under either an aldermanic city, like Countryside does, or a trustee village form. The mayor is the CEO of the city, aldermanic form, and the president is the CEO of the village. Now, if you look down here, I made a partial list here. I don't know all of the villages that have this, that municipalities with a village form of government, with village president, not mayor, and 6 trustees. Algonquin, Clarendon Hills, Hinsdale, LaGrange Park, Oak Brook, Western Springs. For almost 50 years, this village had a tradition of having a village president. This community was incorporated in October of 1956, and it had a village president until your predecessor took office in May of 2005. You will notice when you read the minutes, I'm sure some of you do. Let me see here. First of all, the minutes are a legal document. And you'll notice in the minutes, you used to be referred to as mayor, but that has been corrected. And now in the minutes is village president. And I provided everyone with a copy of the village center makeover. I don't know what page that was on, but anyway,
Your time is up. Could you wrap it up?
Pretty
quickly,
soon.
please? Thank you.
I copied it from the ordinance, and your signature below it says village president. And by the way, I don't think a legal document should be signed with a nickname. I think it's supposed to be signed with a given name. I've also included the one on global luxury imports, which was August 2015, village president. I hope you all will give this some thought over the holidays. Now, Pavesa says, oh, I should get used to it. Why do I have to get used to throwing out a tradition of 50 years? A lot of people in this community think the CEO should be referred to as village president, not mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolores. And just for edification, this is an old topic that's been discussed for many, many months. And it was determined by our attorney in the state that the CEO of the village does have that option. Matter of fact, Dolores, the organization called the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference, been around for years. I'm speaking. And that's been around for years, and they don't say DuPage Village presidents. There's a reason for it, because they actually have the option. You're welcome to come here and spend the time digging up old things about 4 or 5 years ago and tradition. But I would really, I mean, you can do that if you and waste your 5 minutes. But I really would like you to concentrate on more positive things looking forward rather than looking backward. Thank you very much. Are there any other non-residents? I don't think so. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Grasso?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Bolas?
Yes.
Trustee Scalpa?
Yes.
5-0.
Invitation for breakfast or lunch sometime, Dolores, still stands. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much. God bless you. Have a very happy and healthy and blessed Thanksgiving. Thanks again for joining us.